Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flamong, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uwayama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Tuesday, April 22nd, and I finally get to talk about the spring game. Hand up to everybody. I apologize. Look, I blame Notre Dame for this. They scheduled their spring game earlier than they ever have in the history of the program, and it coincided with my children's spring break, and we planned a trip. And not just that, but we were not in any situation where we could record or anything. I couldn't even watch the game. I had to watch it on like some bootleg thing that wasn't, it wasn't the best quality. I was out in London. But I am back. We're going to talk about it. Steve Angeli has left the program. He has entered the transfer portal, leaving the quarterback competitions to Kenny Minchey and CJ Carr. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about what I saw from those quarterbacks in the spring game. I said Kenny Minchey showed me the most. A lot of people got upset about that. To be honest, it's been quite a toxic conversation online about if a quarterback plays well. I'm not even putting down CJ Carr. I just thought Kenny Minchey played well, and a lot of people couldn't handle that. So it's been that kind of offseason, Jamie. But we're going to talk about all those things. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell, so whatever it is. We are going live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And as always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang. You've seen ESQ on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches. With over a decade of making the best custom clothing available, ESQ will help you look and feel your best in 2025. From a perfect fitting suit or sport coat, shirt or bomber jacket, or the perfect tuxedo for wedding season, check out Ge's amazing work at esqclothing.com. Book an appointment to upgrade your wardrobe today. Mention ISD, get 10% off your entire purchase. That's esqclothing.com. Jamie, I'm just going to just kind of an overhead thing. I thought the spring game format, let's make that the format going forward. I don't like the draft and all those other things. Offense versus defense, don't even keep score, right? Just run plays. Let's analyze the plays. It doesn't even have to be a game. I like the offense versus defense stuff. I thought it went really well. That was kind of one of my main takeaways from this. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that better. I hate the draft kind of thing. I mean, maybe some people kind of like that part and think it's cool, whatever. I know they've done it for like other all-star games and all that. But it just seems like it's one of those things that's like, it sounds like a good idea, but it doesn't really end up being that good. And then a lot of the times the teams end up being uneven. Yeah. And there's not quite enough to kind of fill in around, where if you're just doing offensive defense, you can just say, okay, well, this guy's going to play like extra reps in this game because we need somebody at guard here. We need this or whatever, rather than the dumb kind of thing of being like, well, this guy's going to play on both teams or whatever. Like, just do it like this. Like, I mean, personally too, I don't care. Like the scoring, no one watched that and said the offense dominated. I mean, it wasn't that at all. But it just, so it should be more reflective. If you're going to put scoring, it should be more reflective that it's even, I guess. Yeah. But honestly, like, does anyone really care about the scoring? No one is ever like, man, I remember like, the blue, offense won this, and no one cares about that ever. Yeah. I guess it's like good in the fact that, like, a couple years ago, there was the thing with Angeli. Remember, he had to run in that touchdown at the end. Mm-hmm. Okay, give a little bit of extra like drama at the end. Outside of that, like, I don't really see the point of, kind of keeping score, because you're not even looking at any of that kind of stuff. Like, even the whole idea of like, not to throw shade at somebody, but I saw another beat writer just post something about like, CJ Carr's led this many scoring drives compared to the others. I'm like, well, they decided to go for a fourth down instead of kicking the field goal on these ones. So it's like, so that doesn't count as a scoring drive because they did that. It's like, why are you keeping track of that? That's dumb. It doesn't have anything to do with what's going on. It's also like goes back to kind of the same reason of like when you're looking at like the stats of the game and stuff too. It's like, you can't really overreact to any of the stats either. Like just go and watch and be like, hey, did you see good flashes? Did you see good things for people? Like that's kind of all you want to see, because no one ever really, it's not really a day where people get embarrassed by like how they look out there. It's kind of like spreading kind of the positive, like people getting excited about the season. And in reality, like if you look at like the defensive line, there was 5 guys in the rotation who weren't playing on the defensive line in the game. So it's like, you can't get too excited about that, about anything that's going on defense and whatever, because of all the guys who are out. And the same thing on offense, right?
Yeah.
So you just gotta kind of take it. Like Sid Iyer said, spring game is for the fans. Just let the guys just go out, enjoy it, and say like, hey, you get to see a little bit of ball. Hopefully you see some touchdowns, you see a couple sacks, you see some good stuff.
Yeah. And it's just like, I think it's better because it is how like the scrimmage, like the jersey scrimmage everyone talks about, that is sometimes open to the media but is never open to the fans, right? That's how they do it. They don't draft up teams in the jersey scrimmage. Like, it's offense versus defense, and so to me it's like that's kind of how I want to evaluate things, because when you start mixing and matching, it's like now it becomes almost impossible to try to take anything away from it. We'll just get to this kind of the main course right away. There were people. I was kind of in some like texting conversations with some people. I texted you a bunch about the spring game. But one of my main just kind of takeaways, I watched it twice. First time I had this first impression. The second time I had the same impression of this. I was like, they are going to, Marcus Freeman had talked about there's going to be 2 quarterbacks. We want to get down to 2. I was like, I'm pretty confident Steve Angeli is the odd man out. And the reason for that is because watching the game, I thought that Minchey and Carr had gotten to his floor. And that to me was the writing on the wall for Angeli, because I think that there was the safety net of Angeli and you felt like they knew what they could get. Watching those 2 quarterbacks, I thought they have met the floor of Angeli, and it's now about how high they can elevate. And and the other part was Angeli never got to the point where he elevated from what he has been previous. And I think he needed to do that. And he didn't. Now, so to me, it's like, I think the coaches look at it like, all these guys can get us to X number of wins, right? It's about who can get us to the highest number of wins. And I just didn't think it was going to be Angeli. And that was my main takeaway from the game, just overall. It's not that he played poorly. I just thought the other 2 showed me the ability to do a little bit more than what he could. I was wondering if you kind of had the same impression when you were watching that.
I think that's kind of how I felt about it. I mean, I'm combining it with, kind of what I saw the week before too.
Right. And plus, like you had heard things that, that kind of pushed you in that direction as well. You were able to confirm the things that other people had told you.
Yeah. And I think that you kind of have to, look at it where, yes, the known of Angeli, but also too, the fact that he has been there longer than anyone and he's had actual playing experience, he should have a edge in a lot of ways, where it's a noticeable edge on the field, where you're saying like, he got us into this play because it's, that he knows that and the other guys don't, or he made this throw because he knew that this was the coverage they were going to get in this, whatever, like something like that. And it's not that, I mean, I think Angeli like played, I thought, pretty decent in the spring game, and he was okay in the scrimmage before, like, but I think that if it's not clear that it's like, oh, he doesn't have this edge, like you said, like those guys are kind of like reached to kind of like the same level, then you do kind of have to look at it as in like, well, what is the upside? Like, unless the other guys are throwing like, man, these guys are they're making so many more mistakes But
Yeah.
it really wasn't the case, right? It
Yeah.
really wasn't the case. And I know that the Carr pick, first of all, I mean, for all the people who are just like ready to anoint CJ Carr as the quarterback, that was a bad pick. I mean, it just was. But
Yeah.
it's just like,
And I want to talk about that play in a second. So
yeah,
continue, but
it was a bad pick. So like, like but he didn't make any other real throws that were like that on the day. That it was like this was like a horrible decision or whatever,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I think like the week before, when I mentioned in the practice report, like he threw a ball where he did a great job, like escaping the rush, threw another ball that was like, he should have ate it or should have just ran out of bounds. It was a pick that was dropped. Right. So, and you got to look at like all of those kind of things of like how they add up. You look at stuff like things like what decisions they make on like the RPO stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think that's one of the things with Angeli is that he does make good decisions on RPO. He just doesn't have the running part of it as much the same as the other guys. Right. And I thought Minchey, that is one of the things that he does do pretty well. Right. Is that he makes those, I think he makes pretty good decisions in the RPO game. Just like in terms of like whether to give or keep. Right. So I think all that kind of stuff does kind of add into it, but it's like, you do have to look at like what someone can bring and what kind of offense exactly you kind of want to have. And, I mentioned the part about where on the podcast that, top 15 in EPA per rush, all Denbrock's quarterbacks since 2019. So that's Ritter, that's Jaden Daniels, that's Leonard, right? So it's not just Riley Leonard who's like, just been this dual threat. He's had those are his dual threats. Even you go back to Deshaun Kaiser in 2015, he was 24th in EPA per rush that year. So it's not something that the dual threat part is a big part of it. And I think it's not, I think it's fair to say that CJ and Kenny are better runners than Angeli. It's not like Angeli's not a statue. He can run, but it's not the same.
Yeah. The interception that Carr threw, and there was Envy Irish brings up something that I had heard about. Marcus talked about there might have not the wrong route, but it was maybe run at the wrong depth. The way that it was covered by Minnick, I thought Minnick did an excellent job.
Great job.
Very good rep from him. It didn't matter what depth the route was run at. He had undercut it, and it was not open. Shouldn't have thrown it, right? And it was bad. And I thought both Carr and Minchey, because I thought the throw in the end zone by Minchey was equally poor, where it's like
you got to hit the underneath.
Yeah. He had the over route. He had Logan Saldate. I don't know who the defender was, but he had him on an over route, and he had that, and he could have hit it. To me, in some ways, that's worse because it's a touchdown and it's an interception in the end zone, where it's like we're in a scoring area. So there's that. So I thought they both had a bad play there. The other part about the Carr interception is, and I don't know for sure because I don't know how this is supposed to work, but the mechanics on that pre-snap were wrong because he sent Bettis in motion, but he didn't get across the formation. Bettis was the opposite side dump off where he was. Just the way that the routes were constructed, they have to have a flat player to the field, and Bettis never got there because he snapped it too soon, and Bettis ran into the tackle. And so I was like, this play is all messed up. And then it ends up in an interception. And so that's another one where Carr was the one who I thought pre-snap was a little bit, I don't want to use the word sloppy, but it wasn't as tight, right? And look, again, it's a practice, and so it doesn't really matter. But since it's just something that I'm going to discuss, right? It'll get discussed in film, right? Whereas I think the first play of the game for Carr, he had Jaden Greathouse lined up wrong. And so they sent a player in motion with 5 in the backfield. Greathouse then moves forward at the snap. They didn't throw a flag for procedure, but I think in a game it is a penalty. So that's another one where it's like, hey, that is an unforced error of like, we didn't line up correctly. And as a starter, that's your job, right? You got to get lined up correct. Now, it's not a big deal, and it's not the sort of thing that I'm gonna say this is why CJ Carr should not win this quarterback job. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not even saying anyone should win the quarterback job at this point.
No,
It's just
no one
something that I
should
noticed.
make anything definitive about
Right,
any of
right.
it. It's just like it's impossible. And the thing is too is that people basing it off of even just the spring game or the other day they saw, that is such a small percentage of what they actually did this spring, right? And the thing is too is that you could even go into this spring and say one guy is way ahead of the other, right? And just say that, or maybe not way ahead, but like ahead of the other. That can flip like through the course of the summer easily, like that, and it has happened. It's and I brought up an example, and it's something about like it wasn't specifically about quarterback, but like in 2018, so they were bring back Jalen Elliott and Nick Coleman were the two safeties coming back, returning starters, right? Neither of them really played that great. That was one thing where obviously they needed to kind of upgrade in 2018 based on from 2017. But I think you would say that you would probably give the edge to Coleman, who tackled better, found the ball a little bit more, was just a little bit better than Elliott, right? And I think that at the beginning of fall camp, I remember that they had, it was obviously Alohi Gilman was there as a transfer. This was the year that he was eligible. He could be the starter now. So he was starting. He was with the ones, and it was him and Nick Coleman all day with the ones. And I was like, well, that's interesting. Elliott didn't work with the ones all day. It was just Coleman. And, sometimes they do that where it's like, hey, this is your day. And then the next day is the other day. That happens. But I just thought that was interesting because a lot of times they'll just like work guys in both to kind of get a look or whatever. Or maybe even say, okay, well, Gilman, you get out and it'll be like Coleman and Elliott for this, series or whatever. And then, we show up, like we didn't get like a full practice again until like, about like 5-6 days later, we go up to that practice. Elliott's with the ones, Coleman's with twos, never looked back.
Yeah.
And then it was just, that's what it was. And I mean, I don't know if it was just like, he just totally outperformed him in practice all that time, but obviously it wasn't even a situation where they said, well, Coleman's going to be like the third safety he's going to work in. It was just never that. And I know he played, obviously some nickel that year, but it was just something where it just became obvious that one guy just, was surpassed. Elliott had a fantastic 2018 season, right? So that's just like one example of how it can happen and it can flip, and something like, even at the beginning of camp that you think it's like this. Tosh Baker with the ones at tackle. Tosh Baker coming in. Tosh Baker's going to be the left tackle when Jagasaw went out. Obviously, that lasted less than a week. Like it's just it can flip like that.
And so everyone understands, this quarterback competition is about to get serious. When they get to the fall, like whatever it's been in the spring, that's fine and good. The fall has a different energy from the entire team. And so it's going to get real as it comes up, right? So no one has made any decisions. The coaches have not. The quarterbacks know it. This summer and into fall is going to be so important. It's just such a key time for them. So that's kind of all, that's lingering throughout this whole conversation that we're having here. Matthew Bartell, thank you for the super chat. You dudes are really great at your jobs. Thanks for giving us maniacs what we need. For sure. I appreciate that. Glad to be back. I was itching to talk about this. Okay, I made a tweet that said, Kenny Minchey showed me the most. A lot of people got upset. So I'm going to explain myself, why I said that, right? And the thing is and I had a follow-up tweet because someone kind of asked me, questioned it. And I said, I think it's because he had the most to show. And I think that was true. Like CJ Carr did things that we kind of saw last year in the spring game. Like I kind of know he can do those things. The throws to Larson and Ballman were phenomenal throws. it's it's big time. That's why he has a chance to do it. And just generally speaking, like he's an accurate quarterback, right? And so that kind of hangs over everything. I think the thing for me with Minchey is like he's been sitting behind Angeli this whole time, and it's like I just needed to see it. Like, how do you have what it takes to actually win this job? And I had to say, I was very impressed with him. I thought he made some of the best throws on that. Like, and the thing is that he was able to move the ball in the most ways of all the three quarterbacks. He was able to scramble for yards. He ran for a touchdown. He had another pull where he completely fooled the camera. The camera thinks the running back's got it, and he's going around the end, right? And who knows how far that's going to go if he doesn't have a green jersey on. The bootleg throw to a true freshman receiver. That's a big time play, right? And by the way, great job by Elijah Burris on that as well. But that's a big time throw. I thought the post to KK Smith was as good of a throw as either
that was an elite throw
of the tight end throws, right? And like you say to yourself, man, if that ball is thrown to like Malachi Fields or something, or if it's thrown to Jordan Faison or Jaden Greathouse, whoever, like they might come down for that, right? To come down with that. I thought the sideline fade ball to Pauling, I thought that was a good throw. I thought Pauling
wasn't a great route. I didn't think.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a great route either. It's like, to me, when you're grading a player, when a player gets graded by the coaches, those are positive grades, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So it's just like I was like, man, he is dynamic throwing the ball. He's throwing the ball deep with accuracy, with pace, with power. He's throwing intermediate with accuracy. He's throwing short with accuracy. Like, you're kind of showing me all the things that you kind of want your quarterback to be able to do. And it's not really meant as a comparison to CJ Carr. It's just as a standalone, how did this player play? I thought he just showed me the most in the game. And that's just what it is. It's not me advocating for him. It's not, and this is the thing that I think people can't grasp. I'm not advocating for him. If CJ Carr ends up being the quarterback, I'm totally fine with it. It's fine. He's good. I like him. He's a good player. So if he ends up being the guy, I don't have a problem with it. CJ Carr I'm sorry, Kenny Minchey, he just showed it to me, man. And I'm just going to call it like I see it. I thought he looked great. I thought he looked really, really good in the spring. And I think the viability of him being the starter is a lot higher than I would have thought going into spring practice. And that's kind of where I came out with it. Your comments on that?
No, I totally agree with that. I thought too, like, especially after you go back and watch it and you really like kind of look at it rather than in the moment, because it's easy to just look at the numbers too, right? And I think too that's what everyone just kind of looks at the numbers, or they look. Obviously, the first two throws were from CJ were just fantastic throws, so that's going to stick with people's mind. But also too, people go into it thinking like they want CJ Carr to win the job, and anyone all the people who are saying that they didn't think that are like lying, because I've seen it from people all the time, right? So which is fine. I don't have any problem with that, because there's obviously still people that are. I mean, I see people who are upset that Angeli's transferring. They're like, man, they're gonna really miss that. That I think they made a mistake. Like, it's like, whatever. You're a fan. Feel how you feel. Whatever, right? I don't have any problem with that. I mean, I think one of the things too is that, which is why I think it'll be really interesting once they get into, camp and you look at it through every angle, because, there was the one drive where they scored with Carr, the first touchdown drive, where it was like all to the backs.
Yeah.
Right. And those were all set up like, it was against, Cahoon and Manfremo, Bodie Cahoon and Manfremo.
Yeah. And Fremo was on Kedron Young.
Yes. And that was also a really good call by Denbrock, because they had a little rub set up, and then Manfremo. But if that is a veteran linebacker, he might see that ahead and be like, oh, it's wheel. And then he's running with that. And he's not trying to cut it, knowing that, thinking that it's going to go to the flat, right? He's going to go over top of that, the pick, right? So, and instead it ends up being like a big wide open game, and then it's a big third down conversion. And I'm not saying like whatever, he made it was really good throw, he hits him on the move, whatever, all that kind of stuff too. But I'm just saying, it's like in context of it, you have to add in all of these pieces where like, well, Minchey makes that great throw to Hobbs, or Hobbs is in coverage against KK Smith, and Hobbs makes a great play, but it's like ball probably would have, like you said, might have been caught with somebody else because it was a really nice ball.
Right.
And that's the kind of thing that people don't kind of take into account with it when they think like, oh, it's so much miles ahead of whatever. I think it's okay to say both guys look good. Like, I don't know why people have to, and it isn't anything against Carr. It's nothing. Like, he looked great. Like he played well. Like, and it just like too, like I saw like people like getting mad about how like he, we said like, oh, he shouldn't have thrown that pick, or whatever. It's like, well, he shouldn't have. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it was just not a great play from him. It doesn't take away all the other great stuff he did, but just saying that was a mistake.
People were telling me ISD is like bound and determined to diminish CJ Carr. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I said he played great. Like, I said he played fine.
Well, it's because there's a lot of other people, and hey, whatever, they can do whatever they want, that they are like, they portrayed it like, hey, it's Jover. It's CJ Carr. He's won the job already. And I'm just telling you, and it's not even just from what we've seen, some of what we've seen, but it's also what we've heard. It's not over. So, and the reason why it's a problem to proclaim that kind of stuff too, at least in my opinion, that it's so obviously going to be him. And I'm not saying he could be the guy, and he could end up being awesome this year and great. And I think like to me, like, he absolutely could be just CJ Carr could be an absolutely elite quarterback and be like a star for Notre Dame, be a first round pick and all this stuff. So it's not anything he ain't that. But when you're definitive about it, and when you say this, when it's not really the case, all of a sudden, if Kenny Minchey does win the job, there's going to be people losing it and being just complete idiots about it, because everybody portrayed it a certain way beforehand. And that's not, and the whole time people are going to be like, well, the first mistake that, that somebody makes, that if Minchey won the job and the first mistake he makes, people just be like, well, it should have been Carr or whatever, like, and that just, I don't like that. I think that's dumb. I don't think people should do that. Just like the same thing that people who are like, Kenny Minchey's my guy, shouldn't be saying that about Carr if he makes a mistake either, right? Like, just let it play out and let like one of these guys win the job. And I think the whole point is that both these guys have talent, and then we'll just kind of see where it goes.
I don't think there's anything to feel other than excitement about, especially the way that Minchey played. Like, if that's the guy that you think is worse, then people should be thrilled. Like, truly. It's just, I don't know. I thought he looked really good. I thought he looked great. And Notre Dame is, like, in my opinion, is in a better situation kind of coming out of spring than I thought going into spring, right? Where it was all kind of theoretical. You see the way that they both play. And then you can kind of evaluate, or extrapolate going forward with what the rest of the team is, right? It just, like, to me, it's pretty it's pretty optimistic for Notre Dame on the offensive end based on the way that they played, and then how the rest of the team is set up. Like, it's not even going to be a strength for them. Like, we're not even, like, Jeremiah Love didn't play, right? Like, the offensive line was a shell of itself, right? Like, they weren't really dialed in, if you have two quarterbacks that are dynamic, that can push the ball downfield with the running game, like that's the recipe that you want on your football team, period, regardless of who the quarterback is. Like good running game, explosive running game, solid offensive line, and an explosive passing game. Like that is what you want offense to be, just generally speaking, no matter. And we saw that both quarterbacks can deliver that, right? And so, look, that's a positive, right? Obviously, people like Steve Angeli. They like what he did for the program, and he was obviously, a good soldier on that end. But those other two guys, they've shown a little bit more from an upside standpoint, and that's why they are in the position that they're in. Upside's important. You want to get the most out of things. Get the most out of your media company, Jamie. You got to get the most out of it, right? If you're getting the minimum right now, you want to get the maximum. Get the maximum with VSR Media, founded by Notre Dame Football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. Jamie, there was one player in that game that I thought he really needs to show me something. Like I need to see it from him, because this answers the last question that I have on Notre Dame's defense specifically. And that player is Carson Hobbs. He played a very, very good. He had a very good practice. I'll say that. And he showed it to me. I needed to see him do all of the things that he did. He was aggressive. He played with good leverage. He played with good ball skills. He played with venom, with just a type of chip on his shoulder that he kind of alluded to when he was talking to you guys. It's to me, it's very important for the defense, because you need that third corner. Mike Mickens wants to play three. He has always kind of rotated in someone somewhere. Even when, you had Ben Morrison and Cam Hart, they were putting in Christian Gray. They were putting in Jaden. He wants to play multiple guys. He doesn't want players to go the whole way. Carson Hobbs, someone gets hurt for a game, I think he can come in and, it'll be like, I don't know if it'll be exactly like Leonard Moore when he was coming in, but he's going to be a good football player for Notre Dame. It was very, very important for Carson Hobbs to look the part for me. Just kind of go into what you saw from him and how, how he helps the defense, how he enhances the defense in 2025.
Well, one, I think that the fact that he looked good at two spots, because I think that's important, because I do think that they needed depth at both those spots. Notre Dame has obviously got really good nickel play the last few years from like when you go back to like Bracey and then all the way up to Jordan Clark, right? Yeah. And but Clark was a little obviously banged up at near towards the end of the year, but and they could play Rod Hurd there, but I think that added depth. But I think that was something that they had, but it was like not necessarily there. And then they also didn't have enough depth at outside corner because of, at the beginning of the season, it sure looked like they did. And if obviously Ben Morrison would have stayed healthy and Mickey didn't transfer, they would have had 4 good corners and that would have been fine. But you going into this season, that they have, Gray and Moore, they're good.
Yeah.
Devontae Smith, he's a pretty good player. I think he's going to be fine in nickel, but you need like more people there to make sure. You don't want to, they've played freshmen, and chances are one of the freshmen will be able to play and help them this year, no matter who it is. But you want to have Hobbs kind of show that. And frankly, the fact that he kind of showed it at both spots, I think is the most encouraging thing. And the fact that he tackled so well, man, I love the way he tackled. And the fact that he is everything we had heard before, that he was having a good spring before. He made a big play in the scrimmage the week before too. So I think there's a lot to kind of like there. And and I love his confidence, because I think you have to have that kind of edge as a defensive back. I mean, you know that well. Like it's just something that I think is really important, right? And then Spencer Kane says that Gray still concerns him. Well, the one thing with Christian Gray is that if he plays that many snaps again, it's not a good thing. And it's not a good thing for Leonard Moore if they play that many snaps throughout the course of the season. And also, too, if some guy is maybe having a bad day, you can always go back to give somebody else a series or something like that, just to get to reset a guy, too. But you got to have that option. And maybe Hobbs gives him more of that option now. And I think that's important. And I think that's, something that I think really need to happen. And I think one of the biggest developments out of the spring, really just in general, was like, you feel so much better about the depth at defensive back, because you knew they were going to be good. Like starter wise, you felt pretty confident. Yes, they're going to miss Xavier Watts, no doubt. But just depth wise, you're like, well, are some of these guys, can all these guys play? But when you have like guys like Carson Hobbs and Tay Johnson, we're going into their second year, and you're like, well, can these guys play? Can they help them this year? Or is it still further down the line? Like, what's the deal? Or maybe they won't even ever be, because the other guys have kind of come up and pass them. And you're like, oh no, both these guys took big steps and they look good, and they're going to play this year and help the team.
You want Hobbs in your back pocket to where it's like you have now Creed Thomas, who people have been happy with. You have Dallas Golden, and you have Mark Zachary. Like, you have three guys for one fourth corner spot, right? You feel like one of them will be able to do it, right? It's just the odds of it. And so, but you didn't want Hobbs. Like, you wanted to know your third guy can play. And so that's what he gave them. And so that's why I think it's important for the team. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, at some point, Carson Hobbs is going to have to play like very important snaps for Notre Dame in 2025. It's just, it's just the likelihood of it, right?
It's just the odds of it. Yeah.
Yeah. The third corner is going to have to play. As far as Christian Gray, like, he needs to figure out, and this is coachable, he needs to get better at turning and running on the deep ball, right? And to be honest with you, like, I don't even consider like the Jeremiah Smith play. The Jeremiah Smith play was just, they ran the perfect route against the specific defense that they were going to be running. And it's Jeremiah Smith, man. Like, he's going to be the number one pick, right? Like, that was very tough, but he had problems with it throughout the year, right? And so that's what we're coming. He's got to figure it out. Everything else, he's fine. He's completely fine. He's a lot like Cam Hart in that, man, those misses are very loud. They are very loud misses. But like, he's at what, like 57% completions allowed. He's got a bunch of ball production, right? And that was kind of the opposite of Cam Hart. And the funny thing is that, like, before the season, we had talked about Cam Hart in that, man, the guy doesn't give up. The guy just doesn't give up catches, but he doesn't make plays on the ball, right? And so with Christian Gray, like, listen, you deal with some of the deep balls you give up, but then you also get the 100-yard interception return, and you also get the interception that wins the Orange Bowl against Penn State,
huge
right?
Play.
Like, these are huge plays. You get the breakup against Texas A&M to end the game, right? If people have concerns about, and look, I get it. There are very real concerns with Christian Gray on an aspect of his game that is deadly, giving up explosives, right? But if that's a concern, that's the caliber of player you're concerned about on Notre Dame's defense. Their defense is going to be really good. And we kind of already thought that, right? Like, I think people are pretty confident. This is just top of mind. It popped into my head. I like KVA looked amazing.
Yes, he looked really
I
good.
want all the stock. Give me. Man, that guy. He looks better. He looks more explosive, and he didn't even have he didn't have a big run up. I think after this summer and working out and getting prepped, he's gonna he's gonna be in for a big one. Notre Dame's got a special player in him. A player that I know that a lot of people were excited to see because of his his pedigree coming into Notre Dame and his physical traits was Cam Williams. He did have a catch in this game on a crossing route, and to his credit, in the scrimmage before, he had dropped a pass that was a little bit behind him, as people said he was going to go the distance. Right, he had dropped a pass that was on his hip. On this crosser over the middle, CJ Carr put it a little bit behind him, and on a play where it's like, you didn't need to put it behind him. It was a little bit inaccurate. He's able to turn and make the play on the ball. And it was like 2nd and 19 or whatever it was. And he got a first down on that, kept the drive alive. So it was a pretty big play on from that standpoint. I know you were probably keeping your eye on him when he wasn't necessarily targeted and things of that nature. What did you see from Cam Williams in the game from him? And then I'll kind of give my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, that catch really stood out because exactly like you said, right? Like the week before, he didn't make that catch, and so that's a big thing. I would have loved to see them take a shot with him.
Yeah, same.
Give him one shot. And it didn't have to be against Leonard Moore. It could have been against whoever. It could have been Creed Thomas, whoever. Take one shot with him down the sideline, especially when you're talking about like, hey, one of his superpowers is his speed. So we want to get him and be like a vertical threat and like, well, let's work it. Like, let's see, because that's the kind of thing that I think that regardless of what he does this season or not, like that's something that he should be able to do this year. Is like be like, hey, he might only run X amount of routes in a game, but we need to use him in this way because he has this ability, right? So I would have loved to see that. I mean, obviously, it's their prerogative. They don't really need to show anything if they don't want to do that, because
for sure,
you might want to bring him, all of a sudden in the second quarter, you might want to run a play action with him in the game and get him to run a double move or something against Miami or something. So I get it, but would have loved to see that. I think just, you just want to see him take steps and get to a point where, they're going into the fall, and I think everybody knows, Malachi Fields is going to come in. He's going to start. And that they have Jaden Greathouse is going to start and is going to be very good. And that they got FaZe on there and they got Pauling. And, I think even though he didn't, because of the injuries, he didn't get to see him, you still feel pretty good about Micah Gilbert being in the mix there and all of that. But it's about who else can help them? Who else can help them this year and maybe be more and grow into something more? Because that happens obviously at receiver, right? So I think that's the thing is I think you saw good progress from him and good steps from him, and you just want to see him take another step in the fall and be that, because I know that people liked what they saw from Elijah Burris in the game too. And he, certainly caught the ball way better than he did the week before. And he looked good. He looked really good. Yeah. But it's also going to be something where how many guys are going to play? How many guys are going to play this year? And he'll probably be in tough, but he's certainly out of the freshmen. He by far is the best thing. But I mean, even then you would say too, Scrap obviously is an athlete, and that's what you see there, and he's always going to be a long-term guy anyways. But with Jerome Bettis looks far better than anyone probably would have, projected him as coming into it. And I think that's something that you know, not in terms of this year or anything like that, but where people always look like, is he going to come in and going to write him off and be like, hey, they took him because it's Bettis' kid or whatever? It's like, or can he actually play? And I think, well, he's got a shot.
I thought, like, from a physical standpoint, I thought he looked good.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's the first thing you need, right? You physically, you need to look like you can do it. I obviously, I thought Elijah Burris was it looks like a hit, right? And that's important. You want to make sure in a position like wide receiver, someone comes in and they show you right away, like he's gonna be a good player for you, and he's gonna play a lot. And I think he's that. Like, I'm comfortable saying, like, Elijah Burris is going to be a good Notre Dame starter at some point, right? How good, I don't know that yet, but it's like he's going to be a key player for their football team. With Cam, you said it exactly right. Like, why is he exciting as a prospect? Because of this speed and explosiveness. So let's see it, right? Show me he can cook someone, even if it doesn't get, even if it's not completed, even if it's not anything. Like, show me him running free on a post, like, they threw to KK Smith at some point, right? Maybe they didn't want to. I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. Look, he made a play in the game, and that matters, but it's like, for him, it's going to be a slow burn. And let's see if he makes a stride going from the spring to the fall, where it's like in the spring, it's like, hey, you're the boundary guy, you're working in a bunch, and it's like you're going against Leonard Moore all the time, right? Get out of spring, get into the weight room, and, kind of build off of kind of being thrown to the fire a little bit, and then see what happens in the summertime. It's going to be a little bit, there was questions about, whether he's behind Tobias or where he was. And I wonder, like, I think Tobias was definitely ahead of him, but like it all kind of, the only thing that matters is kind of the end game. Can he get beyond what Tobias was in 2023? Because I think Tobias needed to be on the Cam Williams track a little bit, in my opinion. And because of the circumstances of their room, that wasn't able to happen. They needed him to be better than he was ready to be at the time of his career, right? And that wasn't really fair, everyone accelerates at the rate that they're at. But I thought it was a positive step for Cam Williams. More positive steps are needed. And that's important. I kind of wish we'd seen more from Logan Saldate. I don't take it as a negative on Saldate on that front. It was just kind of like, I'd like to have seen why
you want to see like a more flash.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because Kenny Minchey could have thrown him that over route and he could have scored a touchdown. He chose not to throw it, and it is what it is. But just something,
yeah.
Because I feel like people view him as more developed than Cam Williams is right now. And just based on kind of what we saw, I don't know that that's correct. But like, I'm not like down on him or anything. It's just kind of one of those deals where I wish we'd been able to see it. That someone in the chat brought up Nolan James.
He looks good.
Looks good. There's no other way to say it. And the funny thing is, like, he really does look exactly like Kyron, in my opinion. Just the way he moves, the way that he's like smaller, but somehow like he made a cut after his long catch. He had another run where he made a cut and someone just kind of bounced off him. And I'm just like, man, how do these guys, like, just on campus, how are they able to get people to just bounce off them like that? Like, they shouldn't have that kind of power, but that's the kind of running back that he is. And so I thought Jabron Payne looked good again, right? Like he looked, the running back room is, I thought Kedron Young looked good. Like, let me ask you something. So it's hard to say because you kind of don't know how people are going to play. But like, I was thinking, like, historically, what running back room would you take ahead of this one? And like I went back to like 1990 to where it's like, all right, I'd probably take that one ahead of this one. And that one had, and I'm counting Rocket in this because they put him in the backfield, like they ran him at tailback. But you're talking like Rocket, Ricky Waters, Tony Brooks, Rodney Culver, Jerome Bettis, Dorsey Levens was in that backfield.
Yeah.
Like
he had to transfer because it was so loaded.
Yeah,
Guy's like
we're
Pro Bowl
going
guy
way back. Like we're talking like Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, Aeneas Williams, Kedron Young, Jabron Payne, and Nolan James. Like Nolan James is their sixth guy, which I'm not going to make a prediction on who, but that can't stay the same.
It does seem like, that no one would be, the way to put it is no one would be surprised if one of the running backs went into the portal. Yeah. I just think it's just, you get it. It's just, I hope though that a lot of the guys kind of realize though that like after this year, everything kind of opens up because Love and Price are going to be gone. By the way, Price looked awesome in the game.
He did.
Yeah, he looked really good.
Yes.
And it's good problems to have. I like, obviously, like really good problems to have.
The best problems. It's same with Kennedy Urlacher leaving. He's your fifth safety.
Yeah. And honestly, he might have even been the sixth safety or something. Like he could have been like that.
Right, because you don't know where Jadon Blair is.
And we also don't even know too if like say like if it was a game and they were getting into a situation, if they didn't feel better moving, like, well, Devontae Smith, you're going to play safety instead because he's played some safety in his career. So it's like we don't really know like how it's all that is really how where it's going to work out. But he was also kind of stuck in a situation where it's different than with running back where you know that Love and Price are gone, but at safety, other than Stroman, who's coming in, everybody else has multiple years of eligibility left. So it's like, if Urlacher's not kind of breaking through now, would be kind of tough. And you can kind of see like him maybe not doing it, and he would have a better chance to play somewhere else. I'll be interested actually really to see what happens with him at USC this season, because I think he will eventually play quite a bit for them. But this season, because they got Kamari Ramsey back, and he's a good player. Although, I should mention he did get embarrassed twice by Jeremiah Love in that game. It happens. It happens to people. Where it was just hilarious because he got trucked, and then like he was like, "Okay, I'm ready this time," and then he got hurt,
and then he got leaped over. Yeah.
That's just, I mean, that's tough, but it's just like, I mean, literally it could happen to anybody. So, I don't know. I think that, and then they got another guy coming back too. So I think probably at best he's their third safety or whatever. So I don't know. I do think too, if I was going to look at kind of like where he stands to, I think in coverage wise, he had a ways to go. And I think that's probably the biggest difference why a guy like Talich has obviously been in the system longer. And Tay Johnson it was like basically him and Tay Johnson took that jump, and, Urlacher didn't quite do the same.
Yeah. And plus we'd heard like, when Marcus Freeman's talking about it's got to happen in practice.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty red flaggy in terms of development, right? Like man, you're talking about practice with him. Like that really surprised me too, that they would kind of go to that point. You mentioned Jadarian Price. Yeah. Like for a guy who, like doesn't need to show anything for any reason, right? Like why does he need to look good? He's played like real serious snaps. I thought he made a couple cuts in this game where it's like, it's not a big deal, but then it's also a big deal because it's pretty growth. Like it shows a good amount of growth for him, like to be in the hole, making these cuts. Like usually that's like on the outside run. And you think of all his best runs, like you're thinking of like when he had like a runway where it's like you get through the hole and it's like I have a clear path, and it's like I'm too, I'm too fast for you to kind of get the angle on me, where he gets through and he makes a quick cut on, I think it was Christian Gray, kind of in the hole, which
Yeah.
is like, that's a growth point for him as a player. This is kind of why I think like the quarterback, when I think of the quarterback situation, like I think people kind of zone in on the quarterbacks and don't think about what this team is going to be holistically. And it's just like when you think about how all of your favorite Notre Dame teams have been built, and you can consider last year's team on that as well, where it's just Notre Dame has two guys where they can turn and hand it to them, and however many yards are necessary, like they can achieve those yards,
Yeah.
and that is just that is like how you want it to be for Notre Dame. And another player who it kind of goes under the radar because it was a short thing and people aren't really thinking of it. Eli Raridan, when you're giving us the run after catch stuff, it's like that is really opening things up for you. When you can throw your tight end a screen pass and it goes for 45, that is kind of a dimension that Notre Dame hasn't really had at tight end, right? Like Mayer could do it a little bit, but he was like more of a contested catch guy. Mitchell Evans, I remember him making those like contested grabs. There's a little bit of run after catch there, but not that much. Same with Cole Kmet. If Eli Raridan can kind of unlock the run after catch stuff, then that again takes the offense to kind of another dimension. So, I thought he looked really good, and you had seen it as well from him in the scrimmage that you were able to attend.
Yeah, and he caught it like a middle screen and took it for a big gain on that day too. So I think after the catch is that's the big thing with him. And he's frankly better after. Yeah, I think he's the best after the catch option that Notre Dame has had in like a number one tight end since Tyler Eifert. Like he has that like kind of, and obviously he's bigger than Eifert, but like it's and not quite the same. And I'm not saying he's going to be Tyler Eifert. I'm just saying, just in terms of after the catch, what he can offer. They haven't had anyone who is truly like they could, like those guys you mentioned. Yes, they can do some stuff after the catch. No one, I would say, kind of dynamic since Eifert, and Raridan is probably the closest thing to dynamic since then.
Yeah.
But I think even too, you go into the day and there's all these people being like, oh, Jack Larson. I don't know about like Jack Larson looked pretty good. Like he looked pretty good. And obviously, a lot of what he can do will be dependent on like, how well he blocks and all that kind of stuff too. But if you just think about just like another weapon of like a guy that, hey, maybe you could throw the ball to at some point, and this guy all of a sudden brings you a play during the game where he doesn't have to be a guy who catches more than like just say he catches 10 balls on the year, but like they're, he might do something with those 10 catches. Like that's important. That can be really important. And I think Balbin too, even just having the fact that love to see him making a catch like in that first catch too. And and he can block too, and which I think that is something that is going to be important. So there were people who going into the spring or during the spring were thinking that like, man, tight end, I don't like the depth there. It's like the depth, those all those guys can play. And obviously injuries could happen. You never know what's going to happen with Bauman. Obviously he's had the problems with his injuries, throughout his career, and you hope that he's able to stay healthy. But if he's healthy, he can play. And and they still got Ty Washington coming.
Yeah, I was about to say
in the summer too. And you know what? He's going to be a guy who can play as well.
Yeah. So look, the other kind of main-ish takeaway from this for me is this team is loaded. I mean, this is a very, very good roster that Notre Dame has, that Marcus Freeman has built. It's pretty exciting, to be honest. There's a lot to like, right? I mean, look, they're going to go into every game, I think, with the best backfield in terms of running backs. I think they'll go into every game with the best offensive line. I think they'll go into every game with the best pass rush and the best defense. And like, that's what football is, man. And if you want to beat Notre Dame in 2025, you have to out physical them somehow, because they can out physical you and they can out explosive you. I mean, these are hard problems to solve for opponents. So, pretty excited. Pretty excited. Tomorrow we're going to change the schedule a little bit. We're going to go live tomorrow, which is Wednesday. Marcus Freeman's meeting with the media, and so we are going to go live after that, because this is officially the end of spring ball. They had practices after the spring game, which, again, thank you for doing your spring game during my vacation. That's good stuff. So we got the end of spring ball tomorrow. Marcus Freeman's going to meet with the media, and that there might be news coming out from that. So we're going to do a live show tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern time. So look for us there. That's why you want to hit the notification bell sooner whenever it is we are doing a live show. And in the meantime, hit that like button, hit the like, hit subscribe. We're about 250 away from 10K subscribers. We want to get to 10K subscribers. That's our goal. We're putting out great content, and it's been really fun. So we'll see you tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed the show. Talk tomorrow, 12 Eastern time. Have a good rest of your day, and keep hitting and hustling.